Hello and welcome to Byju's Exam Prep IAS. Welcome to all of you. Today for the first session in the Target Prelims 2023 initiative of Byju's Exam Prep IAS. Now, as promised, from today we are going to start this initiative, and many of you have been asking, sir, what is the timetable for this? This is a timetable. Please have a look at it. Do not by heart it. UPSC will not ask a question on the timetable. Now, what are we going to do under this initiative? For the next 20 plus days, that is totally including today, 22 days, continuously, every day, 7:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Please join us live, and these sessions will be conducted on YouTube. This is the list of the subjects as well as the sessions that will be conducted. And this timetable will be made available to you in the description below, along with the PDF of the question paper or the questions that we'll be discussing today, or for that matter, every session. Please download it. Now, apart from this, what is the feature of this initiative? To help you in crack the civil services preliminary examination, in all these sessions, we'll be covering the current affairs from the last 1 year or 365 days. For all these subjects in the last 1 year, whatever has come in the current affairs, we'll have a discussion, and we'll have a discussion plus MCQ based question on these topics. Now, with this caveat, let's begin. But before that, I want to ask you for a payment now. Just like every year, we are going to do this initiative to help you. Please subscribe to Byju's Exam Prep IAS YouTube channel. Hit the like button and provide your valuable comments in the section below. Now, let's start. Question number 1. In the event of a country falling into a recession, which of the following are likely measures to be taken? This is a current affairs based question. In the last 1 year, I'm pretty sure all of you have come across this discussion that has been happening. Many countries have experienced a slowdown. Some of the countries have experienced a recession, and there's a concern that across the globe now, in the coming year or in the coming months, there could be again a recession. So let's say there is a country which falls into a recession. Which of the following are likely to be the measures taken by the country to come out of the recession? Now, let's start. First and foremost, what do you mean by recession? What do you mean by recession? Whenever you discuss the concept of economic cycle or business cycle, you'll come across multiple stages which describe how is the health of the economy. For example, you'll come across growth phase, or generally referred to technically as boom phase. Then there is stagnancy in the economy. The growth reaches a peak, then stagnates. Then there is a slowdown in the economy. If there is no reversal of the course, you will enter into a recession, then into a depression, then there is a recovery. This is how generally the business cycle will happen, or economic cycle will happen. And the best representation of how the economy moves is a waveform. It's represented in the form of a wave. Boom, slowdown, recession, and a recovery. These are represented in the form of a wave. Now, let's say a country enters into recession. What do you mean by recession here? Whenever an economy experiences consecutively for 2 quarters a negative growth rate. Remember this. A negative growth rate, right, for 2 consecutive quarters. In such a situation, we call this as a recession. Has India experienced recession very recently? Think of it. Has India experienced recession very, very recently in the last 3 or 4 years? Of course, yes. Once the pandemic affected or the COVID wave entered into India, Indian economy experienced a recession. Now, whenever there's a recession, what should be the measures taken by the government? Either the UPSC can ask you about the government, or they can ask you about central banker as well. But overall, whether it is the government or the central banker, they will have to promote recovery. What are the measures? Point number 1, increase interest rates. If you increase the interest rates, that is, if the central banker increases the interest rates, then basically no. Loan growth will come down, the number of loans issued will come down, the production would be affected, you will not be coming out of the recovery. Further, there is a chance that you will fall into depression. Second, reducing the capital expenditure. If you reduce the capital expenditure, and when I say you, I'm talking about, of course, the government. Because whenever there's a recession, who plays a very important role? The government plays a very important role. So if the government reduces the capital expenditure, will it promote recovery? No, again it might spiral into a recession. Second one is also wrong. Now before going forward, can you use elimination method here? Think of it, many of the times you can use elimination method even in the UPSC examination, try it. So 1 is wrong, 2 is wrong. 1 is wrong and 2 is wrong. So option B, C and D are eliminated. Which is left out now? Option A is left out. But let's say, right, you don't know how to do this. Let's solve it. Increase the flow of the credit. If the flow of the credit keeps on increasing or the amount of loans issued keeps on increasing, automatically the rate of interest will come down. More loans are taken. It will promote recovery in the economy. Third point is correct. And finally, increase the tax rate. If the government increases the tax rate, such as, let's say, income taxes. If the government during a recession increases income taxes, don't you think the expendable income will come down? How much disposable income all of you have will come down, will further reduce the demand, will promote, right, depression in the economy. Right, so fourth one is also wrong. Third point is the right one. Now, beside this, apart from this, there are two technical terms. Please remember this. The concept of pro-cyclical policy and counter-cyclical policy. Pro-cyclical policy and counter-cyclical policy. What's the basic idea? Pro-cyclical means whatever is the stage in the economy, whatever is the situation in the economy, the government policies will basically amplify the situation, promote the situation. For example, imagine the growth rate is already very high investment by the private sector, etc. During that period of time, government also increases its investment. It will promote more and more growth, which could lead to inflation. Whereas if you say counter-cyclical, opposite of pro, that is, the government policies will reduce the amplification, will reduce the intensity of the situation in the economy. For example, if there is a recession, government should not reduce its expenditure. Government should increase the expenditure so that you will move opposite of recession, that is towards recovery. So the term pro-cyclical, counter-cyclical can also be used, but what is preferred? What is preferred during a recession or during even the very, very high periods of growth? You expect the government to have counter-cyclical policies. So please be very careful. These terms also can be used in the prelims. Question number 2. And some of you are asking, sir, what is the right answer? Right answer for question number 1 is option A. Now, let me go to question number 2. GDP of a country grows by 10% compared to last year. Which of the following are guaranteed outcomes? Underline the term guaranteed outcomes. Possibility is there, but the question asks which is a guaranteed outcome. So let's say hypothetically, last year, a particular economy, the GDP growth or GDP value was 100 crore rupees. Last year it was 100 crore. This year, it has become 110 crores. So if you look at the growth rate in the GDP, what is the growth rate? Growth rate measures by percentage what has been the rise, what has been the change. So the GDP growth rate in the economy is how much? 10%. Now, whenever this kind of a GDP growth rate is experienced, what is a guaranteed outcome? First statement, number of poor people has reduced. How many of you believe that if GDP of a country increases, guaranteed poor people will come down? The number of poor people will come down. No. It is a possibility. It's a possibility, not a guaranteed outcome. So some of you will ask me, sir, how? How is that possible? There is a term called as exclusive growth, not inclusive growth. In fact, in UPSC mains syllabus, inclusive growth is mentioned. Now, rather than expecting, let's say, inclusive growth, what if you experience exclusive growth? For example, A, B, and C. 3 people are there in a country. All the 3 put together are earning, let's say, 100 rupee income. Now, C's income can increase. As a result of this, the total income will increase. GDP will increase. But what if A's income still remains same? So, GDP has increased. Right? GDP has increased, but not the number of poor people. It has not come down. So, number of poor people has reduced. No, it is not guaranteed. It is not guaranteed. Second one, everyone in the economy is earning more. Just now I gave you the same example. Everyone in the economy is earning more? No, that is also not guaranteed. Third one, sum total of market price of final goods and services has increased. If the GDP increases, what is GDP? Essentially, what is GDP? GDP stands for gross domestic product. Right? And gross domestic product is nothing but the market price of all the final goods and services. Underline the term, final goods and services. The market price of all the final goods and services counted together will give you GDP of a country. So third statement is correct. Exports have increased, not necessarily. GDP can increase even with rise in the exports. Even if the exports have not increased, production has happened. Let's say consumption in the domestic market has increased. As a result of this, GDP could have increased. So fourth one is also not a guaranteed outcome. So have a look at this. The third statement is a guaranteed outcome. Right option for the question number 2 will be option A. Only 3 is correct. Now, question number 3. ICAR of an economy has a decreased. ICAR. I'll come back to that, don't worry. Which of the following may be factors behind it? Now, is there a connection to current affairs? Sir, why are you discussing ICAR? I've read somewhere in one of the books regarding concept of COR. But why are you discussing ICAR when you say you are going to cover current affairs? Very recently, there has been a lot of discussion regarding what kind of growth India is achieving. In that context, concept of ICAR is very, very important. First and foremost, what is this concept of, right, the idea of ICAR? Let's start. ICAR stands for Incremental Capital Output Ratio. Incremental Capital Output Ratio. Now, what is this incremental capital output ratio? Let me take you to one of the chapters in, let's say, the economy, that is GS paper 3, concept of planning. In planning chapter, you'll come across one model, and the first 5-year plan is very much associated with this model, Harrod-Domar model. Harrod-Domar model. What does the Harrod-Domar model state? The Harrod-Domar model states, if you want to achieve a higher growth rate, if a country, right, wants to experience a higher growth rate, then the savings rate has to be higher and the capital output ratio has to be lower. I'll repeat it. If an economy wants to achieve a higher growth rate, then the savings rate should be higher and capital output ratio should be lower. What is this capital output ratio? How much money you will invest, the capital that you need to invest to get 1 unit of output. I'll repeat it. The amount of investment that is required to get 1 unit of output, that is called as capital output ratio. But one of the issues regarding capital output ratio is that it takes into consideration the total amount of investment. That is, historical investment will also be considered. Sir, what is the meaning of this? Let me give a very basic idea. Between 1950 to 2023, total investment that has been done and total value of the output, that will give you capital output ratio. Which means, let's say hypothetically you have invested 100 crore and you are getting, let's say, 1000 crore worth of output. You will use that and calculate capital output ratio. But simple question to all of you. Can you find out what has been the investment in the last 1 year, and as a result of that, What has been the rise in the output in the last 1 year using capital output ratio? Answer is no. That is a precise reason. Rather than simply using capital output ratio, what we use is incremental capital output ratio. In simple terms, in last 1 year, how much has been the total investment? And in the last 1 year, how much has been the rise in the value of GDP? That will give you the value of ICAR. Now, come back to this. Imagine ICAR for a country has actually come down. It has decreased. Which of the following may be factors behind this, right, decrease in the ICAR? Let's start. Adoption of better or efficient technology. Basic idea. If you're a manufacturer, if you shift from one kind of technology to another type of, let's say, a machine with a better technology, don't you think cost of producing per unit it will come down? So ICAR, whenever you adopt a better technology, right, ICAR will come down. First statement is correct. First one is correct. Second, higher skilled labor availability. If you have better skilled labor, and in fact in case of India, one of the issues regarding the labor is skilled labor availability is very, very low. So if you have very good skilled labor available, don't you think productivity will increase? Productivity of the economy will increase. So whatever investment you're making, as a result of this, more and more production will take place. Productivity will be higher. So ICAR will come down because of this. Third one, very tricky. Please be very careful. Investments have become capital intensive. Investments have become capital intensive. Now many of you will have a doubt regarding this. So what do you mean by capital intensive? Let me start with a very simple example. Imagine manufacturing of aeroplanes. Manufacturing of aeroplanes. Manufacturing of, let's say, ships, steel production, etc. Simple question to all of you. Think of it. How many of you think that the investment in machines, investment in capital machinery that you will use to manufacture these will be very low? Think of it. How many of you believe that investment requirement is very, very low in case of manufacturing of these three products that I've written? Absolutely no. So investment requirement is very, very high. So whenever in an industry or in a sector, investment in machinery, capital machinery is very, very high, it is called as capital intensive. Capital intensive industry. Now whenever capital or economy will adopt an investment measurement wherein, or investment policy wherein, they will start investing more and more in capital intensive sectors. You tell me what will happen to investment? Simple question. What do you think will happen to investment? Don't you think the investment suddenly will increase in the economy? Investment will increase. And when the investment increases, what will happen to ICAR? Will the ICAR come down or will ICAR increase? ICAR increases. So third one is tricky. Please remember this. Whenever in an economy there is a sudden shift to having a capital intensive sectors, ICAR generally increases. So in first and second, ICAR will come down. In the third one, ICAR will increase. So the right option for the question will be option B, 1 and 2. You're supposed to choose under which of the three you will actually reduce the ICAR. It is option B, 1 and 2 is the right option. Okay. Now, question number 4, near and dear ones to all of you, current affairs. Let's say milk has a price elasticity of a demand, PD, it's around, let's say, 0.5. In fact, various surveys have shown that the price elasticity of a demand for milk is somewhere around 0.5 to 0.6. Don't buy heart it, UPSC will not ask you. The price elasticity of a demand is around 0.5. It indicates that milk has very high elastic demand, unitary elastic demand, inelastic demand, and none of the above. The price elasticity of a demand. Now, right, many of you would have read it. For those of you, it's a revision, and those of you who are looking at this concept for the first time, you will come across a concept called as elasticity. In fact, one of the favorite areas of microeconomics in UPSC Civil Services preliminary examination. Idea of elasticity. What is this elasticity? Elasticity measures changes. Simple. Elasticity measures what? Change. So change in what? Under elasticity, you will measure supply side elasticity as well as demand side elasticity. For example, under demand side elasticity, you will come across income elasticity of a demand, price elasticity of a demand, cross elasticity of a demand. Whereas in case of supply, one type, price elasticity of supply, PES. Now come to the question that has been asked here, price elasticity of demand, PED. Now what is the basic idea of a PED? In a nutshell, in a very, very simple nutshell. If there is 1% change in the price, simple, remember like this. If there is 1% change in the price, as a result of this, how much percentage change in demand will be observed? I'll repeat it. Try to make it very, very simple like this. If there is 1% change in the price, as a result of this, how much percentage change will take place in the demand? That measurement is called as price elasticity of a demand. Now let me ask you a very simple question. Think of it. How many of you believe that in case of food grains, in case of vegetables, etc., the price when they change, when it changes, the demand will change by a very, very large number. Think of it. Just think of it. Is it possible? If the price of the onion changes by 1%, do you think in your house they will reduce the demand by 10%? They will reduce the demand by 20%? No. Argument is simple here. In case of essential products, for example, food grains, petrol is an essential product for all of us, right? In case of salt, in case of vegetables, etc., the demand doesn't change by much. That is the reason, even though price is changing, demand doesn't change by much. We'll simply say demand is inelastic. Is it okay? I'll repeat it again. The price is changing, but the demand is not changing by much. Very, very small change, marginal, incremental change, negligible change. Such change in the demand is said to be inelastic demand. Can I give you a very simple example? Look at the products such as milk. Tell me, milk is there in the current affairs, by the way, and we will see some more questions on milk later, don't worry. In the last 1 month itself, price of the milk has increased. How many of you seen in your own households the demand for milk going down? Have you experienced it? Right? Has your parents or have your parents cut down the milk consumption by 50% because the price have increased by 5%? Absolutely no. Most of the times demand will change because we are talking about overall market. Small change will happen, not a very large change. Can I give you one more example? Salt. Very, very important product. Salt. Right? Tell me now, if the price of the salt changes by 10%, will you stop consuming salt? Possible? Not possible. So let's start now. Let's say the milk has a price elasticity of a demand which is around 0.5. 0.5, what does it represent? Price has changed by 1%. Price has changed by 1%. The demand has changed by 0.5%, which is very low elasticity. Very low elasticity, right? We simply say it is inelastic. We'll simply use the term the demand is inelastic. Right, so is it okay? Question number 4, the product has inelastic demand. Some of you are saying, sir, unitary elastic. No. If you say unitary elastic, it simply means 1% change in the price leads to 1% change in the demand. Is it happening now? No, it is not happening. The demand is changing by a very small number compared to the price. right? The inelastic demand. So inelastic demand is the right option. Done. So question number 4, right option is option C. Question number 5. Consider the following statements about PCI. What is this PCI? Per capita income. Very, very important. Per capita income. Why? In the last 2 months, there has been a lot of discussion regarding the concept of per capita income. First and foremost, what is the meaning of per capita? Per capita means per person. Remember this. Per person. Very often you will come across the term called as per capita in different context. For example, right, per capita income. Another example, per capita emission, per capita subsidy, etc., etc. So the idea is per capita means per person. Now what has happened? Why this was there in the current affairs? Let me show it to you. Please have a look at the graph here. Do not by heart the graph. Do not by heart the graph. Look at the graph. What the graph represents is how the per capita income has moved over a period of time. What has been the value of per capita income? Now if you compare between 2001 to 2023, the red line represents percentage change. Percentage change. Do not by heart it, UPSC will not ask you. Whereas if you look at the blue color or whatever color you want to call it as, don't worry. If you look at the blue color, it represents what is the actual value of per capita income. Right? How is it calculated? Simple, right? Per capita income is calculated taking different components. Right? I'll show it to you, don't worry. But what is the point here? The question says the per capita income in real terms, I'll come to this, don't worry, has almost doubled in last 8 years. Most of you look at it and say, yes sir, it has doubled. But please hold on a minute. Please look at the statements very carefully. Do not rush. Do not become very happy that one question which you have read has directly come in UPSC. No. Please understand this, per capita in real terms. Sir, what do you mean by real terms? Whenever you use the concept of real term, it simply means after adjusting for inflation. After adjusting for inflation. Nominal and real. Nominal means whatever is the current market price. Is that okay? Nominal means whatever is the current market price. And real means you will have to adjust it for inflation. So has per capita income doubled in the last 8 years in real terms? Absolutely no. It has not doubled. It has not doubled. It has increased by less than half or let's say 50%, but it has not doubled. So first statement is wrong. First statement is wrong. But many of you will basically say that, sir, but I read in the newspaper it has doubled. My dear, what you're looking at is, I'll show you one more table. Do not buy at even this table. Right? Look at the numbers in the table. What you're looking at in the newspaper is basically per capita net national income. Per capita net national income. So in the newspaper, whenever you come across this, in the last 8 years it has doubled. They are looking at this data, but this is at nominal prices. This is at nominal. Nominal means what? Current market price. You will come across the concept of nominal GDP and real GDP. Right? I'm pretty sure all of you have read about it. Nominal and real. Nominal means current market prices. Real means after adjusting for inflation. So the first part of the table talks about nominal per capita income. Second part of the table talks about real per capita income. Real per capita income. So in case of real per capita income, what has happened? It has increased by somewhere around 30 to 40%. That's it. Not by almost 100%. It has increased somewhere around 30 to 40%. So the per capita income at real terms or in real terms is around 98,000 rupees. In nominal terms, it is 1.72 lakh rupees. 1.72 lakh rupees. Now, come back to the question here. PCI in real terms has almost doubled in last 8 years. No, it is wrong. Second, as per the latest data, the PCI in real terms is 1.72 lakh rupees. Again, even this is wrong. In real terms, it is around 98,000 rupees. Okay? Right, so first and second, both the statements are wrong. Right option for this question is option D, neither 1 nor 2. Let's start. Question number 6 now. Next question. Which of the following are attributable to black swan events? Sir, was the term black swan present in the current affairs? I'll give you the connection, have patience. First and foremost, what do you mean by the term black swan event here? There is one economist, rather than economist, he is more of a statistician, very famous by the way. Nasib Nicholas Taleb. Mr. Taleb, very well known writer, author. Mr. Taleb came out with a concept called as black swan event or black swan theory. In fact, he has written wonderful books. Don't worry, UPSC is not going to ask about books here. Focus on this. Black swan theory. What do you mean by black swan theory? As per the black swan theory, there will be certain events which are going to take place either in politics or in economics or in the stock market, etc. There will be certain events. These events will have huge implication not only for the sector but also overall economy. I'll give you examples, you will automatically understand it. I'll repeat it, understand this carefully. What do you mean by a black swan event? These are certain events which you cannot predict. You cannot predict these events. These are certain events which can happen in stock market, which can happen in banking sector, which can happen in politics, etc. But these events will have very huge consequences. Sir, any example of this? You tell me now. Russia-Ukraine war. Is it a prime example in the current affairs regarding black swan event or not? Think of it. Right, a black swan event, Russia-Ukraine war. Is it not a black swan event? Can I give you one more example? Right, let's say the 2008 global financial crisis. 2008 global financial crisis. Was it not a black swan event? Of course, yes. Now, many of you will, based on my explanation now, most of you will basically come to a conclusion in such cases, black swan events are always negative. Absolutely no. Black swan events can be positive as well as negative. Now, why I have taken this question? There is a very interesting reason why I have taken this. RBI mentioned the term black swan event. Right, in discussion related to the Indian economy, there was a mention of black swan event. That's the reason this is becoming very, very important now. Right, so one example of a negative black swan event is Russia-Ukraine war. Another example, prime example, which all of you will agree, COVID-19. COVID-19, right, pandemic, black swan event. Right, so 2008 global financial crisis, COVID, Russia-Ukraine war, negative black swan events. Any positive black swan events? What about internet? Usage of internet. Right? Don't you think usage of internet, or let's say introduction of technology such as internet has had positive impact on the global market? Of course, yes. This is an example of positive black swan event. So it can be positive also, it can be negative also. So this is the basic idea of a black swan event. Now, which of the following are attributable to the black swan events? As per Mr. Taleb, there are three very important features which can be attributed to black swan events. First one, these keep on recurring, hence very easy to make models for them. Absolutely no. Right, as per the statistician, no, you cannot make models for them. For example, today you will sit and say, sir, I predicted that Russia-Ukraine war would happen. Right, today you will say that. In fact, Mr. Taleb says that this is one of the feature of a black swan event. That is, once the event has taken place, people look at it and say, I predicted it. I wanted this, right? I expected this to happen, etc., etc. But absolutely no. You cannot predict. These are very unpredictable. You cannot make economy models for this. So these keep on recurring, hence easy to make models for them? No. These have huge consequences. Of course, yes. Look at pandemic, Russia-Ukraine war, the introduction of internet, etc. Of course, yes. These can be either positive or negative. Yes. Right. So 2 and 3 are the features which you can attribute to the idea of a black swan event. First one, no, you cannot attribute it to black swan event. So the right option for the question number 6 will be option C, 2 and 3. Let me go to question number 7 now. Consider the following statements. Consider, right, following statements. India's is the 5th largest economy in terms of GDP when measured in nominal terms. Start. India's is the 5th largest economy in terms of GDP when measured in nominal terms. Statement is correct? Of course, yes. Why? Why it was there in the newspaper? Look at the graphical representation here. Please have a look at the graphical representation. There are two ways in which economy can be measured, or the size of the economy can be measured. Please remember this. One way you can rank the economies is in nominal terms. One way you can rank the countries is in nominal terms. What is the meaning of nominal terms? What is the nominal exchange rate? You can use it and find what is the ranking of countries. Second one, in real terms. That is basically the concept of purchasing power parity, PPP. And again, please understand this. The term PPP can be used in different contexts as well. For example, in infrastructure also you will come across the term PPP, public-private partnership. I'm not talking about public-private partnership, I'm talking about purchasing power parity. Now think of this and let me know in the comment section. I'm looking at some of your comments. Can I simply say, whenever real exchange rate is equal to 1, think of this. Whenever real exchange rate is equal to 1, I'll simply say the currencies are at parity. Think of it. Whenever real exchange rate is equal to 1, can I simply say that the currencies are at parity? This can be asked straightforward as a question in the prelims. Please be very careful. Now let's start. Nominal terms, real terms or PPP terms. India has recently overtaken Britain to become the 5th largest country. Very, very recently, India has overtaken Britain in terms of nominal GDP to become the 5th largest country. And various estimates have been provided. By 29-30, this will become the 3rd largest, it will become the 4th largest, etc., etc. All these are estimates. What's a fact now? Remember this. In fact, this was even mentioned in the economic survey. It was mentioned even in the economic survey. Please be very careful. So India's ranking in terms of nominal GDP, nominal terms, is 5th largest country. Right? Please have a look at the graph now. Please have a look at the graph. The largest country in terms of nominal GDP is USA, $26 trillion. China, $21 trillion. India, $3.8 trillion. This is the latest data. Please remember this. And the second point here, what is the value of India's GDP in the total global GDP? I hope you understand. What is the value of the India's GDP out of the total GDP in the global market? 3.5%. As per the latest estimates, it's around 3.5%. Done? Now you'll ask me, sir, what about PPP terms? What about PPP terms? What is India's ranking in terms of PPP? In terms of PPP, India's ranking is 3rd largest. India's ranking is 3rd largest. India's ranking is 3rd largest in case of PPP, and nominal, it's a 5th largest. Now come back to the question. India's GDP is the 5th largest economy in terms of GDP when measured in nominal terms. First statement is correct. The top 5 largest countries in terms of GDP account for over half of the global GDP. Right, a trend-based question, a factual-based question. Please have a look at it now. Let me know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, including India. Right, don't you think all the 5 put together, they account for more than 50% of global GDP or not? I hope you understand. They account for more than 50% of global GDP or not? Of course, yes. 24 plus 19, 43. 43, 47 and 51. Here itself we can get. Of course, I am not adding the decimals. So top 5 largest countries in terms of GDP account for over half of the global GDP. Second statement is correct. India accounts for around 3.5% of global GDP. Third statement is also correct. All the 3 are correct. Right option for the question number 7 will be option C, 1, 2 and 3. Let me go to question number 8 now. Question number 8. Consider the following statements regarding inflation. Let's start. WPI has a higher weight for food commodities compared to CPI. Very, very straightforward, simple statement. Don't worry about first one. Most of you, I'm pretty sure, would have by-hearted the table of weightages under WPI as well as CPI. You will get to know the first statement. I'm more interested in the second statement. Narrowing gap between WPI and CPI may indicate that the impact of spillover effects may be nearing completion. Why? Right? What is the reason? What is the meaning of the statement in the first, right, in the first place, etc. Let's start now. WPI has a higher weight for food commodities compared to CPI. Let me see. Correct or wrong? Correct or wrong? No, it is wrong. WPI has a comparatively lower weightage for food commodities compared to CPI. For example, if you have by-hearted, you will know this. In case of CPI, the food and beverages has a weightage of around 46%. In case of CPI, the food and beverages has a weightage of around 46%. Whereas in case of WPI, it is the manufactured commodities which has the highest weightage, somewhere around 64 to 65%. Right, so in case of WPI, it is the manufactured commodities which has the highest weightage. In case of CPI, it is the food and beverages which has the highest weightage. First statement is wrong. Now come to the second statement. Narrowing gap between WPI and CPI may indicate that the impact of spillover effects may be nearing completion. Now what is this narrowing gap? First and foremost, what is this gap? How many of you have observed that WPI and CPI, whether it is the rate or the movement, etc., there is no synergy between both of them. There is no synergy between both of them. No synergy in the sense, both of them are moving in completely different directions altogether. For example, sometimes you will see that CPI is moving upwards, WPI will start moving downwards. You will see CPI volatile like this, WPI remaining constant like this. Right? That has happened. Trust me, it has happened. What is the indication here? Indication is there is no convergence between both of them. Both are moving independent to each other. Both are moving independent to each other. This has happened. Please check the movement of both WPI and CPI. You will see that both are moving in altogether different directions. That is called as a divergence. Remember this. This is referred to as divergence. Why is there a divergence between both CPI and WPI? Why is there a divergence between both of them? Reason is very simple. The composition of both CPI and WPI are different. Point number 1. Composition between both of them is different. Point number 2. The base year for CPI is different. WPI is different. Right? Base year for both of them is different. Third, base effect for both of them could be different. Right? So these are some of the reasons why you will see that there is a divergence between both WPI as well as CPI. But one very important point here. Think of this and let me know. if WPI remains consistently very high, I hope you understand this. If WPI consistently remains very high, will there be a spillover effect into CPI or not? I'll repeat the statement again. If WPI, right, is consistently remaining very high, will there be a spillover? Spillover means impact upon CPI or not? Some of you will be confused, sir, how? How do you say that if WPI remains higher, CPI will remain higher, will become higher? Reason is very simple. Let me take an example here. Imagine I'm a seller in the market. I'm selling it to you. You are a consumer. Retail market. I'm selling this marker to you. But to manufacture the marker, let's say the manufacturer will purchase petrol, manufacturer will purchase raw materials, manufacturer will purchase steel, etc., etc. And the price of these inputs for the manufacturer keeps on increasing, which means a WPI keeps on remaining very high. Elevated WPI. Now if the WPI keeps on remaining elevated, keeps on remaining higher, raw material cost increases. Tell me, will the manufacturer increase the market price or not? Will the manufacturer sell it at a higher price or not? Of course, yes. I will purchase it at a higher price. I will sell to you at a higher price. So the WPI consistently remaining elevated will have an impact on CPI. This is called as spillover. WPI spilling over to CPI. Now if the divergence between both of them becomes very narrow, the gap between both of them becomes very small, very narrow, does it not mean that spillover effect is getting over? Is it okay? I'll repeat it again. When the divergence between, right, the gap between both of them becomes very narrow like this, does it not mean that WPI is getting reflected in the CPI now? That is correct. So second statement is correct. So question number 8, first statement is wrong, second statement is correct. Right option for the question will be option B, only 2. Okay, now question number 9. Choose the correct option. The inflation rate in an economy is very high. What policy should the central banker adopt in such a situation which gives a priority to controlling inflation? Think of it. Right, current affairs. Again, all these questions are related to current affairs only. Sir, when you say current affairs, where is it related? You tell me from last year May. From last year May, what has been RBI doing? Has RBI kept the interest rate stagnant? Has RBI kept on increasing interest rates or not? Right, so second one is correct. RBI has kept on increasing interest rates. Now, whenever you talk about the monetary policy, there is one concept called as stance of RBI. One is monetary policy. Second one is stance. What is the meaning of the stance here? Stance indicates what is likely to be done by RBI or the Monetary Policy Committee in the next week or in the next monetary policy review. Is it okay? The Monetary Policy Committee will give you information about stance. They will say calibrated tightening. They will say neutral stance. They'll say hawkish stance, dovish stance, etc. What does it indicate? It is an indicator of how is going to be the movement of interest rates, how likely it is going to happen in the next monetary policy review meeting. So the question is about monetary policy stance here. So inflation rate in the economy is high. What is the priority for the central banker here? The priority for the central banker is the controlling of inflation. They want to control inflation. That's a priority for them. So when inflation rate is high, priority is controlling inflation. The banks or the central banks will adopt a stance called as hawkish stance. Hawkish stance. Right? What is the meaning of a hawkish stance? Likelihood that interest rates will increase. It's a likelihood that interest rates will be increased by the RBI or the central banker. Right? So whenever interest rates will be increased, what is the impact? Don't you think when the interest rates will be increased, it will help RBI in controlling inflation? Right, in controlling inflation. What about neutral stance? What is the meaning of neutral stance? RBI or the Monetary Policy Committee is not saying anything. They are basically saying, let me come to the point. After 2 months again I'll come back. And at that point of time, whatever is the situation, based on that, I will take a decision. Neutral stance means RBI is not telling you whether they are going to increase or decrease. They will simply say, after 2 months, what will happen? I will tell you based on that. What about dovish stance? Dovish stance simply means reduce interest rates, increase money supply. Right? And obviously one more is a calibrated tightening. Calibrated tightening. Calibrated tightening simply means the interest rates will be increased. Interest rates will be increased to reduce the money supply in the economy. So question number 9, right option is option B here. Let me go to question number 10. Which of the following may contribute to cost push inflation? Which of the following may contribute to cost push inflation? Now one of them I've taken as a current affairs concept, and in recent times there has been issue of the cost push inflation in the domestic market. Now let's start. What is this idea of a cost push inflation? Whenever you talk about inflation, there are two types. One is a demand pull inflation. One is demand pull inflation. And the second one is cost push inflation. Second one is cost push inflation. Demand pull, cost push. Now, what is the basic idea? Whenever supply side factors, remember this term, whenever supply side factors will contribute to inflation, that is called as cost push inflation. I'll repeat it. Whenever supply side factors will contribute to inflation, that is called as cost push inflation. Whenever demand side factors will contribute to inflation, it is called as a demand pull inflation. Let me give you examples. Imagine all of us in India will get a job, or our salaries will be increased. Tell me now. Right? If all of us get job or our salaries are increased, will it be a cost push or demand pull? Right? If all of us get increments, will it be a cost push or demand pull? It will be a demand pull. It will lead to higher aggregate demand in the market, causing inflation in the market. On the other side, let's say the raw material cost increases. Raw material cost increases. The cost of technology for the manufacturer increases. Or the GST rate is increased by the government, etc. All of them, don't you think, are supply side factors? And when supply side factors contribute to inflation, that is called as a cost push inflation. Now come to the question here. Come to the question. Please have a look at it. Which of the following may contribute to cost push inflation? Higher crude oil prices. Has it happened in the last 1 year or not? Right? Or let's say since the onset of the pandemic, and even in the last 1.5 months, with OPEC deciding to cut the production, has the crude oil prices increased or not? Of course, yes. And if the crude oil prices increases, will it cause inflation in India? Answer is yes again. Answer is simply yes. Why? Around 85% of the crude oil requirement in the domestic market is imported. It is imported into India. And when you have so much of import dependence, and the price of the crude oil in the international market goes up, automatically it will add to cost push inflation. Second one, rising temperatures. Sir, why have written rising temperature? I don't think so that will contribute to inflation. My dear, it will contribute. There is a reason why I have written rising temperature here. Why? How many of you have read regarding wheat production in the domestic market? Right? The wheat production in the domestic market. one of the reason why wheat production has been affected is the rise in the temperature. The average rise in the temperature, which has affected the yield rate, which has affected the production of wheat. Again, whether it is going to cause or not, you don't worry. But can it be a cause or not? Of course, yes. Supply will come down compared to the demand, market prices will go up. In fact, in the last couple of months, cereal inflation rates has been higher. Please remember this. Cereal inflation rate has been higher in recent times in the domestic market. It's a cause of concern. Rising temperatures, can it contribute to cost push? Yes. Third one, rising fodder prices connected to milk. Connected to milk. Sir, how fodder prices will contribute to higher milk in the price? Fodder is a very important raw material. In simple terms, when I say raw materials, what do you feed cattle? Tell me. Right? What will you feed the cattle? Of course, fodder. If the price of the fodder goes up, cost of production of the milk automatically goes up. In fact, as per Government of India, right? As per Government of India, around 65 to 70% of the cost of producing a milk is because of cost of the fodder. And very recent in case of India, we are experiencing even fodder inflation. Remember this. We are experiencing fodder inflation. So many types of inflation. Please remember all of them. Fodder inflation, food inflation, cereal inflation, core inflation, headline inflation. So many types of inflations. So rising fodder prices, of course, yes, that will contribute to higher cost of production. And finally, duty-free imports of edible oil. Duty-free imports of edible oil. Right? If Government of India will allow the duty-free imports of edible oil, don't you think the supply of edible oil in the domestic market will increase and the cost will also be lower? Will it contribute to inflation? No, it will help in cooling of the inflation. It will help in reducing the inflation rate. Right? So 1, 2 and 3 will contribute, right? Will contribute to inflation, cost push, and third one will help us in controlling inflation. Right? So right option for the question will be option C here. Option C is the right option for the question number 10. Done? Question number 11. Which of the following are the outcomes of higher inflation? Imagine there is a higher inflation in the market. Which of the following are the outcomes of it? A result of it. Let's start. Export competitiveness will increase. How many of you believe that if India experiences higher inflation, exports will become more competitive? No. Export competitiveness because of higher inflation rate will go down. Always remember this. Export competitiveness will go down. It will not increase. Right? Second one, will attract high foreign investments. Correct? Right? If India experiences a very high rate of inflation, will the foreign investors be interested in investing in India? Let me connect it to current affairs. What was the inflation rate in Sri Lanka? What was the inflation rate in Pakistan? 25%, 28%, etc., etc. So when the inflation rates are very, very high, right, please understand foreign investors are not interested in such country. Right? So second one, no. Third one, increases purchasing power. Increases the purchasing power. When the inflation rate is higher, it will reduce the purchasing power rather than increasing the purchasing power. Right? So third one, right, basically it will reduce the purchasing power, not increase. Lowering real rate of returns. Lowering of real rate of returns. Actually, the fourth option is the right one, or the fourth statement is the right one. Option A is the right one. How? Let me show it to you. What is this idea of a real rate of returns? Imagine you have 100 rupees. You have 100 rupees. You will take it to a bank. You will deposit in a bank, and the bank manager says, "Sir, thank you so much. I will give you 5% rate of interest on it." 5% rate of interest. After 1 year, you will have 100 rupee plus 5 rupee. But at the same point of time, during the same period, the basket of commodities which costed you 100 now will become, let's say, 107 rupees. Tell me now, the basket of goods which costed you 100 rupees in 1 year will become 107. What is the inflation rate? Inflation rate is 7%. So you are earning 5%, inflation rate is 7%. Do you think you are making good amount of returns in the market here? Think of it. Do you think you are going to make good amount of returns in this market? Absolutely no. Right? You will not make good returns. In fact, what has happened here is inflation has not only negated your interest rate, it has basically negated interest rate. You are going to pay more money from your pocket to purchase the same set of goods and services now. That's the reason whenever inflation rate is very high, inflation rate, when it is higher, it will reduce real rate of returns. It will reduce the real rate of returns. Right? So lowering of real rate of returns is the right statement. Right option for question number 11 will be option A, only 4. Okay? Question number 12. Question number 12. Which of the following publishes World Food Index? Straightforward question, but let me add certain concepts here. Which of the following, right, publishes World Food Price Index? Looking at the term World Food Price Index, most of you will jump to option A. As expected, many of you said option A. No, it is not option A. In fact, it is option D. Food and Agriculture Organization. It is a part of United Nations. United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO. Now, why it was there in the current affairs? What is the importance of this? During 2020, remember this, during 2020, the World Food Price Index actually fell down. During 2020, the World Food Price Index actually fell down. Why? What is the reason? Pandemic. All of you can attribute this particular decline in the index to the pandemic or not? Of course, the demand for the food grains in the global market actually went down during pandemic. So the World Food Price Index fell down during pandemic. And then there was one more black swan event, Russia-Ukraine war. Russia-Ukraine war. Because of Russia-Ukraine war, the World Food Price Index actually went up. World Food Price Index actually went up, increased to more than 100 units. And that is not good. Why? Generally, what does it represent? What does it represents is basically that the prices of these commodities in the international market is going up. It is going up. And when the prices will keep on increasing, it simply means there is an issue related to food security. I hope you understand. There is an issue related to food security. Because there are many other countries, especially some of these African countries, which are import dependent, right? Which are import dependent. And when there is a increased index, World Food Price Index keeps on increasing like this, it simply means these countries now will be facing the shortage, will be facing the issue of food security. So the United Nations Food Agriculture Organization, FAO, publishes World Food Price Index, and this is done every month. Every month in the newspaper, you will come across what is happening to World Food Price Index. Now, if directly written World Food Price Index, UPSC, if they want to confuse you, they'll simply replace the term World Food Price Index with FFPI. FFPI. Some of you will be confused right now. Sir, you have written World Food Price Index. The short form should be WFPI. But what you have written is FFPI. Please check. Absolutely no. Instead of the term world, I have written FAO Food Price Index. FAO Food Price Index. And this FAO Food Price Index in short is written as FFPI. So please be very careful. In the last 1.5 years, lot of discussion has been happening regarding the World Food Price Index, right? Please be very careful. Question can be asked from here. Okay. Now, question number 13. Consider the following statements regarding disinflation. Consider the statements regarding disinflation. Now, many of you will be confused regarding the term disinflation itself. Let me start. Let me explain. Don't worry. First statement. The contractionary monetary policy or fiscal policy may cause a disinflation. Now, some of you are already confused. Based on your answer, I can come to know. Let me explain it. There are two terms. Please do not be confused by this. Deflation, disinflation. There are two terms. I'll give you an example. Based on this, you tell me whether you can get it or not based on the numbers itself. Let's say for a basket of commodities, price is 100. The price will fall down to 90 rupees. After 1 year, price will fall down to, let's say, 83 rupees. The price will fall down to, let's say, 71 rupees, etc. Disinflation for a basket of commodities. Price is 100. It will increase to, let's say, 110 rupees. It will increase to 115 rupees. It will increase further to 116 rupees. Now, please make an observation here. Please make an observation. Is there a difference between deflation and disinflation or not? Look at the numbers. Do not be confused. Make it simple. Is there a difference between deflation and disinflation or not? Of course, yes. What is the difference here? Here, the price levels are contracting. I'll repeat it. Right here, the price levels are contracting. Price levels are falling down. Opposite of inflation. But now look at disinflation. Are the price levels falling down or increasing? Are the price levels falling down or increasing? Price levels are increasing. Type of inflation. But have a look at the next point very carefully. What is the rate of inflation? What is the rate of inflation? From here to here, 10%. Here to here, I'll just generalize it. Don't worry. I'll just simply generalize it. It is around 4%. Here to here, it is, right, let's say less than 1%. I'll simply write 1%, but it is less than 1%. Now, can I say in the second example, that is this one. In the second example, inflation rate is slowing down. Let me know. In the second example, inflation rate is slowing down. The rate of inflation is becoming slow. That is disinflation. That is disinflation. What about deflation? Price levels are actually coming down. So deflation talks about price levels. Disinflation talks about rate of inflation. Please be very, very careful with the difference here. Now, many of you look at disinflation will come to a conclusion it is bad. No, disinflation is not bad. What if inflation rate is very high? Let me know. What if, and trust me when I say this, we are experiencing disinflation in certain months in India. When inflation rate is very, very high, what would you prefer? Slowing rate of inflation or deflation? I hope you understand. What would you prefer? Deflation or a slowing rate of inflation? You would prefer a slowing rate of inflation, that is disinflation. So if you come across the term saying that Indian economy is experiencing disinflation, do not be worried. It's not bad for India. It's actually good in the context of very high rate of inflation. When the inflation rate is very high, disinflation is good. That's the reason, do not be confused. Now, can I say, right, think of this and let me know. Can I say disinflation is opposite to reflation? One more introduction of concept to you. Disinflation is opposite of reflation. Is the logic okay? What is reflation? Reflation means government policies to promote recovery in the economy. I hope you understand. Government policies to promote recovery in the economy, right? That is, government will start spending more and more money to promote recovery in the economy, where inflation rate will start increasing. So disinflation is generally considered opposite to reflation. Now come back to the statements here. Contractionary monetary policy or fiscal policy may cause a disinflation. Yes? Is the logic okay now? Contractionary monetary policy or fiscal policy may cause disinflation. Contractionary means what? Reduced money supply. Simple. Reduced money supply. If you expand, money supply will increase. Contractionary means money supply will come down. So contractionary monetary policy or fiscal policy may cause a disinflation? Of course, yes. Sir, any example of this? Please look at what has RBI done in the last 1 year. Please look at what RBI has done in the last 1 year. Can I say whatever RBI has done in the last 1 year is basically a reflection of contractionary monetary policy? RBI by increasing interest rates is reducing the money supply. Some of you are saying no. Right? RBI in the last 1 year has increased the repo rate by 250 basis points. In the last 1 year, it has increased by 250 basis points, which is nothing but 2.5%. What is the outcome of a hike in the interest rate by 250 basis points? Money supply will automatically go down. Right? So the contractionary policies may cause a disinflation. Statement 1 is correct. Second one, disinflation is always accompanied by recession? No. It might happen during a recession. There is no guarantee. Please remember this. It might happen, but it is not always accompanied by recession. This is wrong. For example, today in case of India, if you look at the inflation rate in the last couple of months, you will see that sometimes there is a disinflation. But that doesn't mean that there is a recession in the domestic market. So second statement is wrong. First statement is correct. The right option for question number 13 will be option A. Only one is correct. Now, question number 14. Which of the following measures have been taken by the government in the recent past to control inflation? In order to control inflation, right, have a look at this. What measures have been taken by the government, right, in the recent past, in the last, let's say, 1.5 years, 2 years, etc. First one, it has invoked Essential Commodities Act. It has invoked Essential Commodities Act. In many of the agriculture commodities, Government of India has brought these commodities under Essential Commodities Act. Now, what is the idea of Essential Commodities Act? Once any commodity is listed as an essential commodity, once any commodity is listed as an essential commodity, that will basically be controlled by the government in the form of what? In the form of production. Government can regulate supply of it, government can regulate storage of it, etc. Production, supply, distribution, storage, etc. will come under the regulation of the government. Right? So have a look at this. Which of the following measures have been undertaken by the government to control inflation? First statement is correct. Second one, increase the excise duty on the fuels. If government will increase the excise duty on the fuels, will it help in controlling inflation or cause inflation? Think of it. Right? If Government of India will impose more excise duties on the fuels, will it fuel more inflation or control inflation? It will cause more inflation. It will cause more inflation. So second one is wrong. You can use elimination method and get the right answer then and there itself. But anyways, duty-free imports of crude soybean and crude sunflower oil. These are edible oils. These are edible oils. Government of India in fact has allowed duty-free imports of crude soybean and crude sunflower oil. Why? In the domestic market, in certain time period, the prices of edible oils was very high. And just like crude oil, we also import a lot of edible oils. And we import a lot of edible oils. If government of India has a very high rate of taxation of imports, if the import duties are very high, automatically imports will become more costly. Already the prices of the edible oils in the domestic market are higher. It will contribute to inflation. So what has the government of India done? Government of India has reduced the duty on these imports, has made it duty free so that the imports will become cheaper, control inflation. Okay, so third one, correct. Export limits on sugar. Has it been done by the government or not? There is a term under WTO called as quota. Let me know how many of you know this term, quota. There is a term under WTO called as quota. Quota, you generally come across the concept of trade barriers. You'll come across the term called as a trade barrier, and within the trade barriers, you generally divide these trade barriers into two types. One is called as a tariff and the other one is called as a non-tariff. One is a tariff and the other one is non-tariff. The concept of quota comes under non-tariff. Concept of quota comes under non-tariff barrier. Done? Right, so have a look at this very carefully. The export limits on sugar, it's nothing but application of quota. Right, and when government will impose export limits on the sugar, will it not reduce the export of sugar, thereby increasing the supply of sugar in the domestic market, controlling the prices? Fourth one is correct. Increase the subsidy on fertilizer and LPG under Ujjwala Yojana. Fifth one is also correct. Right, fifth one is also correct. In fact, for fertilizer, best example, urea fertilizer. Urea fertilizer, if the government had not increased the subsidy on urea, or for that matter even diammonium phosphate, the market prices of these fertilizers could have been very, very high. Government increased the fertilizer subsidy, and that's a precise reason government fertilizer subsidy bill has also increased. For the previous year, financial year 23, the government had estimated in the budget that the fertilizer subsidy bill will be somewhere around 1.05 lakh crore rupees. Somewhere around 1.05 lakh crore rupees. As per the latest data, it will be more than 2 lakh crore rupees. More than 2 lakh crore rupees. Which is basically meaning what? Government's fertilizer subsidy bill has become very high. Right? What is one of the reason? Because government has increased the subsidy on the fertilizers. Right? So fifth one is also correct. So 1, 3, 4 and 5 are correct. Right option is option B here. Right option is option B. Done? Okay. Which of the following may cause imported inflation into India? Right? Which of the following may cause imported inflation in India? Now, before going forward, what is this idea of imported inflation? What is the meaning of imported inflation? Now, please understand this. Whenever imports will contribute to the inflation rate in India, I'll repeat it. Whenever imports will contribute to the inflation rate in India, that is called as imported inflation. Now question is, how does imports contribute to inflation, or why the prices of the imports will increase, which contributes to inflation? Two very important reasons. One, prices of the imports in the international market has gone up, or there is a depreciation of Indian rupee. Understand this very carefully. The prices of the commodities in the international market has gone up. Or the second one is, right, the rupee has got depreciated against the dollar. Now first one is very clear to you. Is the logic okay? First one should be very clear. Sir, what do you mean by that? Let's say you want to import this marker. Right now the price of the marker in the international market is $1. What is exchange rate? Don't worry. Right? Imagine exchange rate is not changing. Right now the price of the marker, it is $1. It will increase to $2. Tell me, will the import become costlier or not? Of course, yes. Imports will become more costlier now. Right? Assuming exchange rate will not change, it remains same. But another example is, let's say the price of the marker remains the same, $1. Price of the marker remains the same, $1. But exchange rate will change now. Right? How? Let's say right now, $1 is equal to 40 rupees. And tomorrow, it will become $1 is equal to 50 rupees. Can I say rupee has depreciated here? Please have a look at this. Rupee has depreciated. And when rupee depreciates, what will happen to value of imports? You'll have to pay more rupees to import the same commodity. You'll have to pay more rupees to import the same commodity, which can also contribute to inflation in the domestic market. So prices in the international market, if they go up, can cause inflation in India. If rupee depreciates, they can also cause, or it can also cause inflation in the domestic market. Let's start. Which of the following may cause imported inflation in India? Look at the first one. War between Russia and Ukraine. You should not have any doubt regarding this. War between Russia and Ukraine. As a result of this, what has happened? Crude oil prices have increased or not? Crude prices have increased. Point number one. Point number two, what about fertilizer prices? What about fertilizer prices? The fertilizer prices also have increased in the international market. Of course, yes. So, contributed to imported inflation. Second, OPEC deciding to cut all oil production. I am using OPEC here. They might simply say OPEC plus. Right? Yes, either OPEC cuts or OPEC plus cuts, supply will come down, and when supply will come down, automatically price in the international market will go up. Third one is tricky. Let me see. Federal tapering. Federal tapering may cause imported inflation in India. Statement is correct. But what is the idea? How federal tapering can cause imported inflation or may contribute to imported inflation in India? Let me explain this. Federal tapering simply means the Federal Reserve, that is the central banker of USA, increases interest rates. Just like we have repo in India, there is one rate of interest in USA, Federal Funds Rate, FFR, Federal Funds Rate. And always remember this, just take it as granted like this. When interest rates in developed countries such as USA will start going up, you will observe outflow of capital from India. There will be flight of the capital. There will be flight of capital from India. From India, capital will start flowing to USA. Now, when the capital will go out of India, that is foreign investors will simply sell rupees, right? Look at the transaction. They will simply sell rupees and purchase dollars. So, rupee supply will start increasing. When rupee supply will start increasing, what will happen to rupee value? Rupee will start depreciating. Any problem here? I'll repeat it again. Right, the foreign investors will sell rupees and purchase dollars. So supply of rupee increases, value should automatically go down. And as a result of this, rupee will depreciate. Now you tell me, if rupee depreciates, will it contribute to inflation in India or not? Answer is yes. So third one, federal tapering can also contribute to imported inflation in India. Okay, it will contribute or it will be a cause of imported inflation in India. So 1, 2 and 3 are correct. Right option is option D here. Option D, 1, 2 and 3. Done? Now before going forward to question number 16, any doubts so far? Let me know. Any doubts so that I can go forward? Anybody has doubt regarding whatever has been discussed so far? Will federal tapering increase interest rate or decrease interest rate? Federal tapering in USA, it will increase interest rates. Right? It will increase interest rates in USA. And as a result of this, right, basically there is a capital outflow from India. Again, I'm saying federal tapering means it's a policy, monetary policy, simple. It's a monetary policy. Monetary policy simply is either change, increase the money supply, decrease the money supply. When inflation rate in USA remains very high, automatically central banker will have to reduce money supply. How will they do that? Increase the interest rates. Right? And some of you are asking, why will the investors move? Investors generally will have more confidence on the USA market compared to Indian market. This is the reason. USA, right, understand this, the investors, right, will have more confidence on the US market compared to Indian market. They will simply go to the market where they feel more safe. Safe avenue, safety. They will move to USA. That's it. Okay. What is Black Swan event? Black Swan event in simply means certain event. It's something that is happening. It can happen either in the politics, it can happen in the banking sector, it can happen in the market, it can happen in the stock market, right, etc. It's a certain event that will take place which you cannot predict, but that event will have a huge amount of impact. It will not have just impact on one sector, it will have a huge amount of impact, right? So that is basically the idea of the Black Swan event. Okay, let me go to the question number 60 now. Okay, consider the following regarding the MPC, Monetary Policy Committee, and there is a reason why I've picked up this question. Let's start. It needs a quorum of at least 5 members. And what is a Monetary Policy Committee? Please remember this. Until very recently, that is before we introduce the concept of the targeting of inflation or inflation targeting, the argument was earlier in the Monetary Policy Committee, 5 members used to be there. 5 people. All the 5 people came from RBI. All were from RBI. Right, but after this what has happened is, government introduced the concept of Monetary Policy Framework Agreement, MPFA, Monetary Policy Framework Agreement. And under the Monetary Policy Framework Agreement, we made the composition to 6. We changed the composition to 6 members. But please remember this, the number did not change. Composition changed. What is the composition now? Now 3 members will be from RBI, Reserve Bank of India, and 3 experts who are appointed by Government of India. 3 will be the experts who are appointed by Government of India. So these 6 members now should meet at least 4 times in a year. Right, to decide what will happen to monetary policy. Monetary policy. That is, should we increase interest rate? Should we reduce the interest rate, etc. Now, consider the following statements. The Monetary Policy Committee requires a quorum of at least 5 members. Wrong. It requires quorum of at least 4 members. Remember this. It requires a quorum of at least 4 members. Second one, it needs to meet at least once every 2 months. Please be very careful here. Most of you looking at the statement will feel, yes sir, it is correct. I hope you understand. Most of you will feel, yes, it is correct. Why? You would have read in the newspaper, once every 2 months, the RBI will meet. Monetary Policy Committee will meet. But that is wrong. Why? RBI says, or the Monetary Policy Committee says, we will meet once every 2 months. That is basically bi-monthly monetary policy. Right now we are following a concept of bi-monthly monetary policy. Bi-monthly means what? Once every 2 months. And this was recommended by Urjit Patel Committee. But as per monetary policy framework agreement, are they supposed to meet once every 2 months? No. They are supposed to meet at least 4 times in a year. That is the law now. Please remember this. Why MPFA, Monetary Policy Framework Agreement, was introduced after amending RBI Act. So as per the MPFA, they are supposed to meet at least 4 times in a year. There is no guarantee they should meet, or there is no mandate that they should meet every 2 months. They are supposed to meet at least 4 times. Right, so second statement, wrong. Third one, recommendation of MPC was given by FSLRC. One more acronym. FSLRC stands for Financial Sector Legislative Reforms Committee. I'll repeat it. Right, FSLRC, Financial Sector Legislative Reforms Committee. Right, and one more name for this is Sri Krishna Committee. Remember this, Sri Krishna Committee. Now, the statement is correct. The recommendation of MPC was given by FSLRC. Right, 1 and 2 are wrong. Third statement is correct. You are supposed to find which of the above statements are not correct or incorrect. Right, so 1 and 2 are wrong. Right option, not the statement, option. Right, for the question will be option B here, 1 and 2. So question number 16, option B is the right option. Third statement is the right statement, but they are asking you, right, basically, right, which of the statements are incorrect. Now, same question, understand this carefully. Some of you basically are right, worried about these kind of questions. Some of you are basically saying, sir, these are very simple questions. My dear, same question, can we change the difficulty level? I will not change the statement. I will change the options. I'll simply change the options. How many of the above statements are correct, I'll say. How many of the above statements are correct? Only one statement, 2 statements, 3 statements, right, or none of the above. So please be very careful, that tendency has increased now. I hope you're basically observing the kind of question papers. Earlier, straightforward questions were asked like this. But sometimes now, very recently, this trend has increased. UPSC has started asking questions like this. Rather than giving you directly 1 is correct, 1 and 2 are correct, right, etc., they will give you 1 statement is correct, 2 statements are correct, 3 statements are correct, etc. Right, so please be very careful. Same question, difficulty level can be increased. Now, before I go forward, I hope you are enjoying these sessions, right, especially all the other initiatives that we have started to help you in clearing the civil services preliminary examination. Just a point to mention, note here, the new initiative has started now, Target Prelims 2023 has started. This will continue for the next 21 days. This, apart from today, next 21 days, the initiative will continue. Every day, 7:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Right? Please join live the session, participate, polls are there, participate, try to answer the questions, listen to the explanation. Do not worry about the PPT. The descriptive or in the description you will get the PPT. Whatever PPT we are using, we will give it to you. Please don't worry. Now, let me continue. Question number 16, right option is option B here. Next one. Question number 17. Consider the following statements. There's a reason why I've given this question. I'll tell you why. Whenever you talk about monetary policy framework agreement, there is one provision. Right? Have a look at this. There is one very important provision. That provision says, if for 3 consecutive quarters, if inflation remains beyond the target, I'll repeat the statement here. For 3 consecutive quarters, if inflation remains beyond the target, what is the target under the inflation or under the inflation targeting? RBI has to maintain inflation rate at 4%. Right? Have a look at this. They can allow the inflation rate to reach up to 6%, maximum 6%, and lowest 2%. Maximum 6%, lowest 2%, 4% plus or minus 2%. For 3 consecutive quarters, if the inflation remains above 6% or falls below 2%, then the provision says RBI has to give an explanation to Government of India. This was there in the newspaper. RBI has to give an explanation to Government of India. What is the explanation here? What is the explanation? Explanation is simple. RBI has to tell what is the reason why inflation rate is higher. Second, what reforms or what measures are being taken by RBI to bring it under control. And the third one, within what time period inflation will be controlled. Right? This is very important provision. Why? You don't have to by heart it, but please make a note here. From the month of January 2022 till October 2022. Right? Remember this. From month of January 2022 to October 2022. What was the inflation rate in India? Please do not by heart the numbers. Inflation rate has been above 6%. Inflation rate consistently has remained above 6%. Right? Now, are we not looking at this provision then? Are we not looking at the provision? The provision which says, if inflation rate for 3 consecutive quarters, and 3 consecutive quarters in terms of months is how much? 9 months. This is for those people who are wondering as well as wandering, right? What is the connection between 3 consecutive quarters and January to October? January to October, 10 months. Right? 3 consecutive quarters means 9 months. So for 10 months, inflation rate in India has consistently remained above 6%. So this provision came into action. And that's the reason, please have a look at it. Section 45ZN of RBI Act 1934 discuss the duty of RBI in case of failure of maintaining inflation rate. Statement 1 is correct. Please by heart this number. Please by heart this number, section 45ZN. In case RBI is not able to control inflation, this is one which will come into activation. Second statement. The report or the note submitted by RBI governor in case of failure to maintain inflation rate must be discussed and voted in the parliament. Very, very tricky statement. Very tricky statement. Most of you would feel, yes, this is rational. They should discuss that in the parliament. They should also vote upon this document in the parliament. No. There is no such regulation. There is no such regulation. Please remember this. RBI clearly has stated, even the finance minister has stated, what section 45 says is, RBI has to give report to government. That's it. What does the government do with that? It is left to the prerogative power of the government. Right? Entirely the government's decision. And that's a precise reason. Despite having inflation rate above 6% for consecutive 10 months, RBI submitting the report to the government has not made the report public. Government has not made the report public. So second statement is wrong. First statement is correct. Right option for question number 17 is option A. Only one is correct. You are supposed to find which is correct here. Question number 18. Consider the following statements regarding the Essential Commodities Act. Already we have discussed, just let's go through this. Section 2A states that an essential commodity means a commodity specified in the schedule of the Act. Why have written this statement? By the way, it's a factual statement. Many of you will be confused. Sir, when you say a commodity is essential commodity, how do you define what is essential commodity? Under the Essential Commodities Act of 1955, ECA 1955, there is no definition given for a commodity which is essential. What the Act simply says, is government will decide which is essential, which is not essential. I'll repeat the statement. Government shall decide which is essential, which is not essential. Right? So, statement 1, section 2A states that essential commodity means a commodity specified in the schedule of the Act. Yes. Under the Act, the power of including or excluding the commodities has been given to Parliament. Again, most of you will believe that this statement is correct. Why Parliament? Sir, the biggest authoritative power is given to Parliament. No, it is given to government, not to the Parliament under the Essential Commodities Act of 1955. So second one is wrong. So first statement is correct. You are supposed to find which are correct here. Right option for the question number 18 will be option A. Only one. Question number 19. Very tricky question. And there is a reason why I have put this question in the discussion of these all the other questions related to inflation. Which of the following publishes Cost Inflation Index, CII? Which of the following publishes Cost Inflation Index? And trust me, when I give you the connection, most of you will, yes, it was there in the current affairs. Very, very important. The right option to the question is option D, Income Tax Department. Please be very careful. Most of you look at the term inflation, and most of you will get stuck up with the term inflation. You will go with RBI, you will go with NSO, you will go with the Labor Bureau. Absolutely no. Right, it is published by Income Tax Department. IT department will publish Cost Inflation Index. Now, what is this idea of a Cost Inflation Index? Let me explain here. Have you heard of the concept of capital gains? Yes or no? Let me know. Have you heard of the term capital gains? Very, very recently it was there in the newspaper. Right, have a look at this. Capital gains, what is the context? Why it is there in the current affairs? Certain mutual funds earlier were provided indexation benefit. Right, have a look at this. Certain types of mutual funds, the debt mutual funds, earlier were provided something called as an indexation benefit. What is this idea of an indexation benefit? Right, please have a look at this very carefully. Have a look at this very carefully. Imagine you purchase an asset. You purchase an asset and you pay, let's say, 1 crore rupees. Right, I'm making you crorepati now. Enjoy. Right, so you purchase an asset worth 1 crore rupees. You'll purchase the asset today. You'll purchase and sell it, let's say, after a certain time period. Don't worry about time period. You'll sell it after a certain time period. And you will sell it at, let's say, 2 crore rupees. You'll simply sell it at 2 crore rupees. Now, can I say that you are enjoying capital gains here? Simple idea. You are enjoying capital gains, yes or no? Right? That is, when you purchase at a lower price, sell it at a higher price, you'll make capital gains. Government will impose a tax on this, which is called as a capital gains tax. But think of this and let me know. Think of this. Don't you think between the time period when you purchase the asset and sell the asset, there will be inflation in the market. The price level of the commodities will change. The purchasing power of rupee will change. I hope you understand this. That is the precise reason government will never impose directly the tax on 1 crore here. That is a capital gains of 1 crore. Government will not impose it on 1 crore. Why? When you purchased it at 1 crore, sold it at 2 crore. Theoretically, if you basically look at it, 1 crore rupees profit. So you feel government should impose a tax on 1 crore. No, government will not impose tax on 1 crore. There's a concept called as indexation benefit. Indexation benefit. That is, let's say, from this time period to this time period. That is, when you purchased and when you sold. Between these two time periods, inflation was 6%. Then the government will ask you to increase the price of this asset by 6%. Simple idea. They will ask you to increase the price of this by 6%. Right? That will become 1.06 crore. 1.06 crore. Now capital gains that you are enjoying is 94 lakh rupees. Any problem with this? The capital gains you are enjoying is 94 lakh rupees. On the 94 lakh rupees, whether this is short term, long term, and it will vary from one asset to another asset, the government will impose a tax and collect. But on what basis will you decide what is inflation? That is the beauty of cost inflation index. I hope you understand. That is the beauty of using cost inflation index. The income tax department will publish the cost inflation index. Using that, you will be allowed to adjust the value of the asset, and thereby, right, indexing the value of the asset, then calculating what is the capital gains. So this was there in the newspaper. Please be very, very careful. The idea of a cost inflation index is published annually. The IT department will publish this annually. Annually will be published. But why this is important this year? Because of the government withdrawing the taxation benefit or indexation benefit they provide to long-term capital gains tax on mutual funds. Government has withdrawn the indexation benefit that they provide to long-term capital gains tax on mutual funds. Not all the mutual funds, debt mutual funds. This was there in the newspaper. Please be very, very careful. Done? Question number 20. Again, one more connection. Please have a look at this. Consider the following statements regarding CPI AL. Sir, what is the connection to current affairs? Please look at the statement to, or just before that. Question number 19, some of you are asking what is the right option? Option is D. Okay, now, question number 20. Consider the following statements regarding CPI AL. I'll explain it to you. Please look at the second statement and tell me, was it there in the newspapers or not? It is used to adjust the wages under NREGA schemes. Manrega, NREGA, whatever you want to call it is. Right, so have a look at this. Statement 2 was there in the newspaper. Let's talk about it now. CPI AL. Now please understand, whenever you talk about CPI, right, you have CPI urban, you have CPI urban, you have CPI rural, and you have CPI combined. You also have CPI combined. But apart from these CPIs, apart from CPI urban, rural, combined, you also have CPI AL. AL stands for agriculture labor. You also have CPI IW. IW stands for industrial workers. CPI IW is there, CPI AL is there. Now what is the use of the CPI AL? In what context CPI AL becomes very important for you? Government announces Manrega wages. It's there, second statement. Government announces Manrega or NREGA wages. And please remember this also. NREGA wages are not uniform throughout India. I hope you understand. NREGA wages are not uniform throughout India, and government has the right to do that. Because the cost of the labor from one state to another state will change. Cost of the labor will change, and that is the precise reason the wages which are provided by the government under NREGA will also change from one state to another state. For example, as per the latest announcement done by the government, as per the latest announcement or the hike that has been announced by the government for NREGA wages, highest increase has been given to Rajasthan, somewhere around 20%. Right, and highest wages are there in a different state. But don't worry, come back to this. What is this idea of a CPIL? CPIL is published. Please remember the table here. CPIL is published by Ministry of Labor or Labor Bureau. It is published by Ministry of Labor or Labor Bureau. Right, that is part of the Ministry of Labor. The base year for the calculation of CPIL is 86, 87. How many commodities are there, right, within the basket here? 60. Are the goods and services both included in the calculation of CPIL? No, only goods are there, services are not included. So please remember this, right? Very recently this was there in the newspaper, can be asked in the prelims. Now come back to this. It is published by NSO. It is published by NSO? No. Use elimination method. It is published by NSO? No. The base year for the index is 11 and 12. No, it is. Just now I have told you 86, 87. Right, so even the third one is wrong. Use elimination method, right? It is used to adjust wages under Manrega. Yes. So question number 20, right option will be option B. Only 2 is correct. Only 2 is correct. Done? Question number 21 now. Considering the recent situation in the world economy, which of the following may cause wage price spiral? Right, very important. I'll tell you the connection to current affairs. How many of you have read what is happening in UK regarding labor? There are so many things that are happening in UK, but regarding labor, I'm focused more on the labor issue here. The deputy prime minister resigned. That's a different issue, right? So many things are happening, but I'm focused only on the labor issue here. Right, before looking at the labor issue, there was one more concept that has affected the global market, not just right UK, but the global market. The Great Resignation. Great Resignation drive. That is, people are simply quitting the jobs. People are simply quitting the jobs. Right, this has happened because of the pandemic. They are simply quitting the jobs. Right, so have a look at this. Considering the recent situation in the world economy, which of the following may cause a wage price spiral? First and foremost, what is this idea of a wage price spiral or wage inflation? What happens is very simple. Imagine you're a manufacturer. Okay, imagine you're a manufacturer. I'm one of the workers. I will come to you and say, I want higher wages. I want to get higher wages. So you're very good. You're very kind to me. And you will basically, right, give me a hike in the wages. Now, when you give the hike in the wages, wages will increase. Tell me what will happen to cost of production. For many reasons, wages will increase. What will happen to cost of production? Cost of production will increase. Any issue here? Wages will increase, cost of production will increase. When the cost of production increases, what will happen to market prices? Market prices will also increase. When the market prices will increase, what will happen to inflation rate? Inflation rate will also be very high. Now, I will come to you again. I will show you the inflation data and say, whatever wages you are giving me is not sufficient. Right? Why? Look at the inflation rate. Inflation rate is very high. So what you will have to do again now here is, give me higher wages. Give higher wages to me. Now have a look at the cycle. If you provide higher wages again, don't you think the cycle will keep on repeating itself? The cycle will keep on recurring itself like this. Right? This is called as wage price spiral. Wage inflation or wage price spiral. Done? This is happening now. This is actually happening where? In UK. In UK, lot of these workers are unhappy with the amount of hike that has been given to them. What they're saying is, we want a higher amount of increase. Inflation rate is very high. Give us a more hike. And there have been strikes month after month, week after week. Many of these workers have gone on strike. The concern that the government says, especially the British Prime Minister says is, if you demand more hike in the wages, what will happen? Look at the cycle. What will happen? The spiral will keep on happening. The spiral will keep on happening. It will lead to again higher inflation. You will ask me again for more wages. Again it will cause inflation. Again more inflation. So this spiral will keep on continuing. That is wage price spiral to you. Now, what can be the contributors of wage price spiral? Third one is straightforward. Any issue here? Third one is straightforward. The trade unions started demanding higher wages. Right? They will demand higher wages, otherwise they will go for a strike. So without any option, right, the company will provide higher wages but cause inflation. Point number 2, COVID-like pandemic. Sir, how COVID will have an impact on wage price spiral? I told you many workers during the period of pandemic, many workers, in fact in some of the countries millions, lakhs of people have quit the job. The reason that they're giving is the company is asking me to work from home, but the target that the company is giving is unrealistic. Right? They are asking me to work, right, and the target is unrealistic. Or the target is achievable, but the boss is horrible. I hope you understand. The target is achievable, but the boss is horrible. Right? Or I'm not able to basically balance between work and, right, let's say my private life. So citing many of these reasons, because of the pandemic, people have quit. Right? It's not that the companies are leaving, people are quitting. Now you tell me, when the people will start quitting like this, one after the other, what will happen to labor supply? Labor supply automatically goes down, and the people will have to be offered more wages now, right, to keep them in the job, or to, right, have them into the job. So that will also contribute to higher labor charges, contributing to spiral. Third one, people are choosing to quit jobs, that is resignation drives are happening now. So first, second and third, all the three are correct, right, and that is the right option here. Option D is the right option. 1, 2 and 3. Done. Question number 22, again related to current affairs. Which of the following actually means sticky inflation? Sticky inflation. Sir, where was it mentioned in the current affairs? RBI governor again and again repeatedly has been using the term sticky inflation. RBI governor is also using one more term, stubborn inflation. Sticky, stubborn, right, all of them one and the same. Right, what is the argument here? Sticky inflation simply means RBI is doing everything in its power to control inflation. RBI has kept on increasing interest rates. RBI has reduced the money supply in the economy, etc. Whatever is there in the power of RBI, they are doing it. But despite of all of this, inflation rate is not cooling down. Right? Inflation rate is taking very, very longer period of time to actually cool down. For example, remember this, I told you from the month of May, we started increasing interest rates. Last year, by the way, May 2022. We started increasing interest rates. Initially, interest rates were increased by 50 basis points, that is 0.5%. Later, it was reduced to 35 basis points, reduced to 25 basis points, etc. But despite of all of this, inflation rate is not going down. It's not reducing at the pace that we want to reduce. Because of this, it is called as sticky inflation. And because of this, this is referred to as sticky inflation or stubborn inflation. Resistance to change. Stubborn means resistance to change. For example, many of you, again, don't take it personally, many of you are stubborn. When we say, please read current affairs, first thing that you will tell me is, why should I read? I will not read, right? You read, etc. So, right option is straightforward option C here. Inflation rate is taking longer than expected time to actually slow down. That is sticky inflation. Okay? Now, consider the following. The economy experiences a sharp decline and then recovers slowly. Such a recovery that is taking place is referred to as dash. K-shaped recovery, V-shaped recovery, W-shaped recovery, and U-shaped recovery. Don't you think the term K-shaped recovery was very recent in the newspaper? Very recently. Right? Some of the experts are saying K-shaped recovery. Government says it's a V-shaped recovery, etc. But anyways, the economy experiences a sharp decline, sudden contraction. and then the recovery is very, very slow. Such a recovery is actually referred to as a U-shaped recovery. Please remember this, a U-shaped recovery. That is, if I want to represent a U-shaped recovery, it will be represented like this. The time period along x-axis, right, the GDP value along y-axis. Imagine this is a GDP value. If nothing happens, it could have continued, or it should have continued like this. And many of you will be having a doubt. So why do you draw the GDP line always moving upwards like this? You tell me. Will the GDP value of a country, will it keep on increasing naturally, or it will keep on decreasing like this? I hope you understand. If nothing happens, don't you think the GDP value should keep on increasing? Whether it is a slanted like this, right, or a straight line like this, doesn't matter. It should keep on increasing. Now, imagine something happens, let's say pandemic, sudden contraction, and after that, very, very slow recovery. Very, very slow recovery. Right? This is called as a U-shaped recovery. Experiences a sharp decline, sudden contraction, and then the recovery is very, very slow. That is called as a U-shaped recovery. What about K-shaped recovery? K and V are very, very famous now. K simply means, look at the arm in the K. There are two arms. There are two hands. If this is GDP value along y-axis and the time period, GDP should have increased like this, but at certain point of time. At certain point of time, because of either external events or internal events, what will happen is the economy will experience, there are two parts in the economy. Two parts. That is certain sectors which will experience a very good growth rate, and certain sectors will experience a recession. So there is a divergence. Within the economy, there is a divergence. Some people are earning more, some people are losing jobs. Some sectors are making profits, some sectors are incurring losses. So this kind of a divergence in the growth, right, this is called as a K-shaped recovery. K-shaped recovery. What about V-shaped recovery? Simple. In case of V-shaped recovery, sudden contraction, sudden recovery. Right? Imagine this should have been the trend line. Sudden contraction and sudden recovery, then it will follow the earlier path. This is called as a V-shaped recovery. And finally, W-shaped recovery. It is also referred to as a double dip recession. What happens in a W-shaped recovery? Economy was moving like this. It will contract. It will recover for certain time period. Again contract, again recover, then finally reaching the original estimated line. This is a double dip recession, right? Twice it will fall and then go back to the original estimate. This is called as a W-shaped recovery. Now, why it was there in the newspaper? Some of the experts said India is experiencing a K-shaped recovery. Government said, that is the chief economic advisor said, no, it is not a K-shaped recovery. Okay, it is not a K-shaped recovery. Okay, right. So these are some of the things that are there in the current affairs. Please be very, very careful. Now, question number 24, we'll take it up tomorrow. We'll stop the discussion here today. Before I start taking up your questions, right? Before I start taking up your questions, again, a very important announcement. For the next 21 days, this initiative will continue. The timetable is there. It is there in the description as well. The PPT PDF as well as the timetable, it is there. Download it. To enjoy these classes, all you have to do is simply subscribe to Byju's IAS YouTube channel or Byju's Exam Prep IAS YouTube channel. Hit the like button, right? Provide your comments in the section below and hit the bell icon as well, so that whenever the sessions are uploaded or go live, for example, these sessions are live, you will be given an intimation by the YouTube. You can join it directly in the live session. Done? Now, let me take up questions from your side. Any questions? connection between inflation and export. Simple. Imagine you're exporting this pen. Because of the inflation, price of the pen or the marker increases from 10 rupees to 20 rupees. You tell me, will the export increase or decrease? I hope you understand. Right? You tell me, will the exports increase or decrease? Exports will come down. What do you mean by export competitiveness? Export competitiveness simply means whether the exports are becoming comparatively cheaper, right? Are they becoming more competitive or not? Okay. Is disinflation possible during recession? Possible. It's possible. Don't worry. It's possible. Okay. MPC was established based on Urjit Patel Committee. Urjit Patel Committee recommended that we should have bi-monthly monetary policy. Bi-monthly. Bi-monthly means once every 2 months. Right? Whereas the FSLRC, Financial Sector Legislative Reforms Commission or Committee, Sri Krishna Committee, recommended that we should have an independent monetary policy. Unlike the earlier monetary policy, we should have, right, a different monetary policy to oversee the inflation targeting in India. Near and rear, we will take it up when I take up the exchange rates, not today. ICAR and capital intensive investment, ICAR simply means to increase your production. To increase your production by one more unit, how much more money you should invest? I'll repeat it. What is ICAR? To increase your production by one more unit, how much more money you should invest? That is called as incremental capital output ratio. Generally, whenever you shift from, let's say, imagine you are there in the agriculture sector, you will shift to industrial sector. Don't you think this becomes capital intensive? And when you shift to these industries, which are very much capital intensive, investments will be very, very high. These are not small investments. These are very, very high amount of investments. That is the reason generally we say that when the economy experiences capital intensive investments, the incremental capital output ratio increases, not decreasing. Okay, done. So we'll stop the discussion today here. We'll continue the discussion, right? Couple of more questions, more important areas we'll cover. Current affairs connection will start again tomorrow sharp at 7:30 p.m. Please join us live again tomorrow. Thank you. Have a great day.